Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. Today I'm bringing you Invasion of the Brood. So this is following on from the unboxing. This is by Petersen Games and the legendary designer Sandy Petersen. This is a game involving brood masters, and in particular Magnalux, who's been exiled by Thunderchild, Broodmaster Thunderchild, to basically come down to Earth and destroy it. So can Earth unite and fight back before the Broodmaster takes over, i.e. Magnalux? So right now we have a map of the world. We have various major nations here in green, and what you're going to be doing is placing out certain different items out here on the board, which I've already punched. And the aim of the game is, if one person's going to be playing humans, they'll be going second. You're going to have the alien Broodmaster going first. They're trying to dominate and take over these major factories, whereas the humans are trying to build Project Orion and send some nukes from down in Antarctica up to the far side of the moon where Magnalux is based to try and destroy it. Okay, so just a quick thing as I'm setting up the game. We have this legendary designers, Quake, Doom, Call of Cthulhu, obviously a fantastically very well respected designer here. And this is the first time I'm playing a Petersen game. We have Cthulhu Wars, also by Petersen Games, and the new Cthulhu Wars Duel, which is on its way, I think, this month. And also what we're going to be placing out here is on these minor sort of territories, we're placing out some neutral tokens. So this is a strategy game for 2 players. And what you're looking to do is basically ally as the humans with every other nation, trying to actually be able to say, look, I want to parlay, I want to go into your zone, areas that we share together, and ultimately be able to move out, bring our stuff down, these nukes down to Antarctica, and again, launch that rocket. So it depends how you want to sit. We're going to have the human player listed here. We're going to have the Broodmaster listed there. And you're going to have a few things there just to show you whose turn it is. We're going to place a token on here. And let's say of the different nations, we can be one of 6. We're going to start off with Europe, okay, based in Europe. Let's go with Europe. And what you're going to be doing is placing a couple of things out on the board. So we have this rule book here, of course, Invasion of the Brood. There's a couple of other games listed in the back. We have Potions Profits, and we have Marry the Monster. Okay, now another thing I'd like to take note about this is some of the art. So this is by, I think it's Lisa McCarthy. And if you've played any of these games back on kind of the old CRT kind of monitors, you'll notice that in addition to, I guess, knowing that in Europe you do have the Eurofighter Typhoon as the kind of air fleet up there, you do actually have this kind of very cool looking, linear narrated effect that you get with the old CRT kind of monitors. Okay, so like I said, various things are going to happen. We're going to have these Broodmasters. The game's a bit like a tower defense game, a bit like games such as Castle Panic or games such as Legends of Andor. We're going to have something getting powerfuler and powerfuler. We have guys such as the Worker Broodling. We have different things on here showing movement on the right. We have defense in the middle and strength on the left. But these guys can just be the start of the bad stuff. We have got Lava Broodmasters. You've got, of course, we just talked about these Worker Broodlings. We've got the Warrior Broodlings. Look how strong these guys are. We have Adult Broodmasters. Various different strengths of things here. And what they're able to do is do, amongst other things, mind control. They can take over some fleets and do great amounts of damage. And whilst we are just being friendly, we're just being whoever we want to be, but if we want to actually go into neighboring territory, we need to get some kind of alliance going on. We need to be able to mediate. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through a few steps on actually what on earth could be occurring in this game with a few examples. Just to let you know, there's some great examples in here whereby Sandy's given his tips, and also what's quite cool is sometimes you get these kind of underscores as if it basically looks as if, it's not intentional, but it looks as if, various times without the game, it acts as if, this has been, put into code and to affecting it. Okay, so we're going to say we're going to be starting off as the Europeans. Again, we're using the EU flag to represent the European Union and where we're going to be moving out from. And then we're going to talk about this beginning of this turn. So again, as always, the Brood who will be starting. And like I said, we're going to be starting off in Western Europe. So firstly, we're going to be placing in the military units equal to what it states on here. So here it tells us exactly what we should be using: 1 army, 1 air, and 1 fleet. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to take your board here, you're going to take the air fleet, one of them, and place it available in there. You're going to take 1 fleet, and what you're going to be doing is placing into any fleet space which is where it can go. So here is the borderline, go to the Arctic Ocean, it could go to North Atlantic, it could go to Mediterranean Sea. Let's say it's going to go into the North Atlantic. And then of course tanks, well, they have to be on land. So over here we have the Leopard 2. So this Leopard 2 with a strength of 2, a defense of 3 and a movement of 1 can go somewhere in Western Europe. In addition to that, of course, we're representing this area. This comes off the board. And they are double-sided like that. And like I said, we have the neutrals available too, which have been going out onto the board. There are a few more spaces I need to put them. These are the factories. This is where you can produce units. It's where you can produce in the Orion. And it's also, remember, these 6 key ones, the dark or green ones, those are what that brood is trying to capture to win. So we might obviously need to relinquish these spaces to try and get down ourselves. Okay, so what we're going to have out here is there's also going to be Central America. It's also neutral, of course. We can't forget about Western Australia or Eastern Australia and New Zealand. That's over there too. So turn 1, the brood, well, firstly, it will begin with 3 mind power. So it's going to start right in that position. And it's going to basically place its 3 mind control marker on the human's fleet. So that's something it can be doing. So we're going to take these mind control and take it there. I'm going to place it on the human's fleet. In this case, of being anywhere we like, but we're going to go where we currently have a fleet. So it's going to go here in this North Atlantic region. Next, it's going to place its free lava in the Western USA. So again, we're going to have that lava token. So that's going to go over into the Western USA, over that area there. Okay, so just showing you that we have a factory in the east, a factory in the west. And then it's going to also then molt. Okay, so then it spends its mind power, so it malts the lava into an adult, which spawns a worker and seizes the area's factory. So firstly, this is going to molt, so it's going to sheds off. It's going to become an adult, as we just mentioned. So there it is. And it's going to spawn a worker. So there is a worker, and on it goes. And as we mentioned, that is that factory square, completely covers it over to show that it has been obviously been taken. Okay, so that's basically all of it being used up. So that's gone all the way back down to 0. Next, I have the humans. So the humans, it's a bit more of a longer thing to talk about what the humans do, but it's quite neatly laid out here in this particular first turn. So humans decide to awaken in India by mediation. So here's India, it's next door. And what we're going to be looking at is say, okay, well, what do we have to be aware of? So we're starting off here, and the mediation is 2. What that means is we actually have 4 different things that we can work with. So ultimately we can awaken, well, we're always going to awaken, but we have Project Orion, we have move, we have battle, and we have build. So these are various steps we're going to be doing in order. So firstly, of course, we awaken, and we're awakening India. And then what we're going to be choosing to do is firstly, by going over to India, we're removing this dormant marker. Now, as I mentioned, the diplomacy is 2, so we're going to be covering over 2 of these markers. We're going to use these to represent the markers to say we're basically spending some time to mediate, which means we can't always do everything at once. And because of this, we must block over these 2 phases. And what we're going to choose to block over is Project Orion, and you'll see why in a moment. As well as that, we're going to block over one more thing. And we're going to block over battle again, because we haven't got much we can really battle with currently. Okay, so we still have some phases remaining. So we have move and we have build. And the first thing that we can do is move. So we're going to move that Indian fleet to the Mediterranean. So we do have stuff here. So what we do is we've laid out what we happen to have with Western Europe, but everywhere does actually have starting fleets. So over in, say, in China, we've got some fleets there. Anything with air is always infinite, basically, it can always be readied at any moment. We have an army over in Russia, so you can choose where you want to stick it. You can have all in one location or otherwise. We have Japan, so we've got their guys over here. Leave that out of the way so it's a bit more clearer. We also have a fleet, so the Chinese have a fleet. We can have that down in the North Pacific. That's still part of the same zone, not paying anything extra for that. Let's have the Bering Sea up here for the Japanese. We have got anything that's neutral, basically, isn't going to be very relevant right now. They are quite weak, typically having those guys down there. We also have an army, let's have them down in Patagonia. But you can spread them out. You don't have to have them all together. We have that Russian fleet, the Yasin submarine. Let's have them up here. We have the Ford carrier for the USA. Let's have them in the Caribbean Sea on a bit of a cruise. We've got the Indian fleet. So we've got this Delhi class destroyer in the Indian Ocean presently. The Arjun, which currently is going to obviously sit in just the place that's India. And we have the Baden or the Baden W frigate. So that's going to have that in the Mediterranean. Well, let's have it in the Atlantic as well. Okay, and aside from that, we've got obviously more of these Leopard Army tanks. And we have the MIA-2 Abrams. So they're going to have them, let's say, in the eastern United States and Greenland. So basically, where you're choosing to set them out is maybe how the Brood is choosing to interact. Do you go heavy? Do you split your stuff up in Russia? Do you think where you want to go? And we'll get into battling in a moment. But as you can see, we've set up in different locations. We've left this South Pacific alone right now. And to be honest, that's fine because there are other routes we can go to get to Antarctica. And you'll see that we will be leapfrogging across. We can basically piggyback on these locations to get down to Antarctica. It's kind of showing us that it's a free route. We cannot go through other zones such as the neutral until we mediate and stuff like that, but we'll get onto that. Okay, so just to let you know, if you are enjoying this content, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Any comments, please chuck them in the description as well. Check that description, and I do reply very fast to comments as well. Okay, so as I said, we've got this move action. We've moved the Indian fleets to the Mediterranean, so this can go all the way up through the Suez Canal. It's come all the way up to here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move the European army to North Africa. So again, we just talked about this leapfrogging. You can go across to this way, or you could come down. So in this case, we've come down through North Africa because this here, again, we have this fleet here. So basically treat these fleets as also being like an aircraft carrier or anything that basically allows us to move across. So that is possible. Okay, so now I cross there. And then the Indian army can move then to East Africa, liberating it. So in it pops down to East Africa. Again, that's because these are kind of connected zones. Sorry, that is there. And we have North Africa. So that is in fine there as well. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the build phase. So the humans can then build an army in North Africa. So firstly, it can be building here. Again, you've got to remember, we only have a certain amount of army. So I did put those extra things on, but just an example. So we only had that one army. It can then build. So it's then going to build an army in North Africa. So it's going to do that. But because where it's building is actually a different sort of territory. So what it is building, it's going to be building one of these kind of neutral zones. In this instance, of course, that's a neutral zone. It'd be there. And remember, that wasn't that was a retro for that one. And then we also get to build a fleet from Scandinavia in the North Atlantic. So right now, we can obviously take the fleet that we just talked about. So that would be there from that build action. And a minor fleet in that South Pacific region. So down here, we're going to be building something down here because it is, again, a minor region, remember. Okay, so that's the end of turn one. So remember, this is where you'd have anything going out for Japan. It'll be over there. We've talked about where you'd be placing stuff initially for China and if you're building in China. So I can just go away to show you just an example. We've talked about these American fleets, but of course, those aren't in play yet. It's just to show you that's where things can start off. And the same for Russia. Okay, so I said that was the end of turn one. We're now going to be moving on to turn two. Okay, so remember this has been taken off its neutral token because we moved into here. We've got the single Indian tank here as well. So in turn two, again, the Brood will always be starting. And in this turn, the Brood will generate 4 mind power. That's because it's got this adult here as well, okay? So it's going to be 3 plus the 1 is 4. Okay, as you can see, this is what it's telling you as well. It's 3 plus however many adults. So it's important to get these adults out. It's important for humans to be focusing on getting rid of these adults before, obviously, the Brood gets too strong, whilst also managing to think, well, let's just rush down and get some of these nukes built down for Project Orion down in Antarctica. Okay, so we're now going to understand, obviously, what the Brood is going to be doing. It places its new mind control marker on the European air unit. So suddenly we've got this mind control, and now what it's doing is it's now placing it over this sort of air fleet. So now it's going to be basically saying, right now, I'm controlling that. But what it's now doing is it steals it away to basically their own available bank. This also costs 1 mind power. Okay, so we're going to knock that down. The free lava is also placed into Central Asia. So we had this lava hovering around, and it's now heading over to, obviously, Central Asia. So we're going to pick this up, and we're going to say, okay, let's stick it in a part of Russia over here. That's obviously the zone that it's going to be spawning in. And also, what's going to happen, it's going to molt. So that's now going to be turning into an adult. So we're going to pick up one of these adult tokens and place it over here too. This also spawns a worker. So now we're going to pick up one of these worker broodlings. Here we go. And stick it there. And being a worker, it's going to go onto that factory. Yep, they're just like bees that like to work on those factories. And what's going to be doing is controlling that factory. So it's now 2 of the 6 factories have now been taken. 2 of these 6. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are more factories there, but it has controlled 2 of the 6. So you have to be very careful what we're doing now to ensure that obviously we're able to stop it getting to hopefully more than 2, but maybe we can get to 5 if it allows us to get that victory. So again, that's the brood's turn finished, but now it's the humans' turn. And the humans mediate the United States, which removes only 1 dormant token. Okay, there's 2, because the United States is a bit more isolated from the rest of the world. Okay, so it's still out of play. However, since diplomacy with the USA, as we can see here, is 0, what that means is the first time around, at least, you don't block off a face. The second time around, we will actually have to block something off down here. So just let you know, these would have been cleaned up as well. All right, Project Orion. Well, as we talked about, that's the next phase, and that is now available. The humans build Project Orions. In this instance, we're building in North Africa, East Africa, and in India. Okay. So the reason why that's possible is we've liberated India, we've liberated North Africa, and if we just let me move that out of the way, we've also, when we came down here, this was also available too. So this has all been generated. So we've generated 3, which is great. All right, now we're going to be to the moving. So moving on to the move zone. The humans declare they use water transport to move the European army in Africa to Brazil. So again, we've got options here to bring ourselves across. It's all about planning ahead. It's quite chess-like, very strategic. Getting things ready, you're tabling that motion. And the brood fleet is in the North Atlantic. So it's still here, so we can't go that way. And it's intercepting anything, and it's going to score a hit. Okay, so right now we're bringing a fleet down here, and it's now going to go into a battle phase because the humans have triggered a battle against this now mind-controlled brood. So you roll some dice, and what we're doing here is checking to see if our value here is equal than or less than what we're currently attacking with. So here's our attack value, it's 3. So what I need to be doing is rolling a 1, 2, or a 3, which is fine, a 2 would do it, against obviously the defending player. They're defending, and if they rolled a 3, they'll be able to obviously defend against it. Rolled a 6, they wouldn't. In this case, we were able to get past. Just to recap, you can't go into dormant regions. That's in the awaken phase. To do that, what you're doing is basically mediating. And if you want to go into a neutral zone, basically you cannot build the turn that you go into a neutral zone. And in case you have an experienced player going on here, what's going to happen is you can use things like Jeep tokens or have some minor aircraft basically to handicap that most experienced player, whether they're playing the brood or the human player. Okay, so as we've said, they've successfully managed to safely get past, and that brood fleet is untouched by this counter-strike. Okay, so now what's going to happen is the humans then move that minor army in North Africa to Patagonia. So what we're doing now is this army is able to, again, we talked about this, bounce across. It's now down in Patagonia. And again, this brood could well be intercepted because it could be the case that actually it's going to come from North Africa. It's going to again have to then be battling against that brood. So basically it's humans fighting against themselves via this mind control. This time this brood ship is now able to hit us, let's say, with unfortunate die rolls. And the defending European fleet is unfortunately sunk as well. Basically, its defensive roll wasn't matched. So again, if we rolled a 1, then we'd be fine. And a 4, we wouldn't, we'd have been sunk. you sunk my battleship. Okay, the defender also, though, you can successfully hit back. We're firing at the same time, and we actually could sink this brood ship. What's going to happen there is the mind control is basically going to come off back to the bank. So this minor army will then stay in North Africa. This means the humans players can decide to march it, say, to East Africa instead, and the humans then can move their fleet in the Mediterranean to the North Atlantic. So now this could maybe pop over to here instead. Let's do that now. Let's bring just to 1. All right, so hopefully that's giving you a bit of understanding how movement works, how battling works, and obviously how defense works as well. What you can do is stack them up. You could eventually have, say, 2 fleets, and then all you need to be doing is getting a 6. And it could be the case that it's a guarantee, obviously, that you're going to be getting a hit as well in that instance. So aside from that, there's no battles are possible because, as we've seen, there's nothing left to do. And ultimately, we've just talked about obviously ending that water transport because we've got where we wanted to get to. So now we're going to move on to that building phase. So the humans build air units in both the European factories. So we have obviously European factories over here, 1 and 2. And we're going to be building those air units. So what we're going to be doing now is taking those units respectively for Europe and placing them into, oops, that's an army, placing them into our available resource. 1, 2, and they're gone. Cool. Right, then what we're going to be able to do is think about the rest of this going to be able to get built. So you can then build in Brazil, because we're now down in this zone, as you can see. So we can build in Brazil, and in this instance, we're going to build a tank. So we're going to build, obviously, it has to be the type of tank that is down there, which in this case is neutral. So let's take a neutral tank and place it in Brazil, making sure it's obviously in the right area for where it needs to be. And there we go. So we have Brazil down here, on the edge there. And another fleet is also going to get built in the South Pacific. So it doesn't matter which side you want to use, but remember it has to be the type that it is. So we're building down here and it's weak, so it's 222, which to be honest isn't that weak. It's obviously doing better than this Indian tank, funny enough. Okay, so we've built down here, and that's basically come out from Patagonia. So this factory has produced this. And then an air unit is also going to be built from West Africa. So again, we're going to take another of these neutral air markers. And again, it's going to go into your available pool because they're always flying around the world all the time. Again, that's coming over from here. And finally, India cannot build anything, remember, because this turn we chose to get an Orion instead. All right. Okay, so we've been everywhere. By the way, we did actually have an Indian fleet over here. And what this allows us to do is actually, when we did have an Indian army, so we did actually have a second Indian army, let's just bring that into play again. That's one that I should have had and I didn't. Just double checking to rewound that. Is that should be down over here, again in Western Australia. So it's hopped over using the fleets to come and, shall we say, liberate or unneutralize Western Australia, coming to our rescue. And on to turn 3. Okay, so in this case, we've now got 5 mind power. It's going to lose anything it didn't use up. So in this case, it's got 5. Remember, we have 2 adults here. It always starts with 3. So 3, 4, 5. It's now up to 5. Again, 5 is the 2 adults plus the 3. Again, uses its free mind control to seize another European air unit. Again, using 1 mind power as a result. So that's down to here. And now we're going to have to deal with some crazy loons flying in the air, which are not in our control. All right, then. It then places the free lava in India. So we're going to grab one of those lavas and place in India. So here we go, India, and there it goes. What's this going to do? It's going to let us destroy the Orion there at no cost, which unfortunately isn't very good. So that is now gone. So we built it, but we didn't transport it. We lost it. So that's what we have to watch out for. Then, for its 4 mind power, so it's going to use all of this up. What it's now going to do is going to spawn a new lava in Scandinavia. So we're going to take another lava, and it's all starting to have hell break loose. And it looks like it's going to be, let's say, up here. And in the north of the Arctic Circle, basically around Norway and stuff like that. So it's going to build up in Scandinavia, and it's going to basically come across from this adult. So what lava is produced by is basically they can go into neighbouring areas. So it's just come across into this neighbouring zone because there's an adult next door. Then, obviously coming in from Central Asia, that adult, it then also builds an Indian worker. So, and it's going to seize a factory. So now we're going to be building this worker, again, coming from this adult, and it's going to go down here, and it's built this factory. So it's taken over this area too, which again, isn't good by any means. It's now 3/6, it's halfway to winning. And it's also aiming at a cheap early victory. Of course, you can see 3 of the 6 are now taken. So what can we do in response? Well, hold your horses, because there's also a lurker in Scandinavia with its remaining 1 mine power. So that used up obviously a fair amount there. There was actually still a bit left over. And it also is because that 4 that I referred to, it also means that basically that mine power is using its spare mine control markers to take over the last European air units. So again, there's still an extra mine control in use. So when it's using up that 4, it's also going to be covering over other European air force as well. And again, those are pretty strong. Those are +3s. So that's pretty handy in battle if we had that. Okay, and then yeah, we just hope that its powerful air force will survive. Let's see how we crack on. So now it's the humans' turn, and the humans will finish awakening the United States. So again, its diplomacy is 1. So we're going to have to lose 1 of these spaces down here, because the second diplomacy is going to cover something over. So what we're going to pick, we're going to lose, let's say, this battle phase. So take our little marker here and place it over the battle phase right there. The reason for probably covering over battle is to basically swarm the brood on the next turn. So the USA starts with 2 armies, so now we're going to pick up our armies relevant to the United States. So we're going to pick up those Abrams even, and then we're obviously going to start off in where we want to stick them, and let's stick them both in the western United States. We're also going to have 2 fleets, so we're going to pick up those 2 fleets and place them somewhere in the waters around the United States. We're going to go for that Caribbean Cruise Sea again, and in the North Pacific, as well as, of course, we have those 2 air units, which of course is going to come down into our little area down here. So we just pick up the respective air units. We have the Raptor 1, 2, and I see it's +4. So it's obviously quite a strengthy little Top Gun down there. Okay, so now we've got those 6 units in play. We're now going to be moving on to obviously Project Orion. So the humans now move 1 Orion to the Mountains of Madness. So what we're going to do now is, because just like human tanks and basically fleets, they work the same way. So anything on foot, anything on land moves the same way. In this case, we do have, remember, we have these ships here. So this is all going to come down to the Mountains of Madness. Okay, so one of them is going to come basically via the Indian Ocean. So it's going to come down here. So we can pick this up and place it down there. And the other one is, available to come down too. So, this can come round again through the Indian Ocean. And now it's down here. Okay, you also then can build more Orions. So right now we can build them in wherever we have an empty factory, because we haven't been building any other units. So we have North Africa, they can get one. East Africa, so Southern Africa and Madagascar gets one too. Western Africa, well, that has been liberated because we managed to go through it earlier. Apologies, those should have come off. As well as that, you can also get one in Brazil. So again, we came out of that zone. And Patagonia, because we're in there too. And as you remember, we also went over to Western Australia. So plenty is now on the cards for us to try and get that victory. So now we're going to move. They transport the European armies in Brazil and Patagonia to India. So now we can start moving things back up. We now know where the brood is going. They can come all the way up to India, again, via these fleets. Because again, we can hop here, and hop across. We're also going to get this army move across here, which is going to liberate this, which allows us now to obviously be freeing up this factory as well, which is going to be great. We're going to have this army can come across here, which gives us more space up towards Mexico. So that's looking really strong. And we've also got this army can come down here too and go to Central America. But we've just taken off that marker, so you can't do that this turn. So we've now gone past that move phase, we're now onto the build phase, because you can't battle. Remember, we blocked that off because we've got the United States into play now. And now we're going to that build phase. So the humans build armies in both European locations. So we're going to pick up these locations here and place them in both of them. So basically just show that we've been using up that Orion by covering over slightly. And then what we're going to be doing is saying, okay, where else can we build? What is still left? So we have Mexico. Again, we've just come up through Mexico down here. So now that can be built as well. So we can get another army in play. Remember, using those neutral armies. And just to let you know, there is a finite amount of units. So if you have run out of these tokens, you can't use any more. That's all that's going to be in play. Okay, so now we've got Mexico built. We've now got, obviously, we've got New Zealand available as well. So we can build another army over in New Zealand, up in the, well, it looks like it's Australia. And then finally, the other minor areas, of course, are all blocked because of either we've got these Orions in play or we've got these worker broodlings. And that's into turn 3. One more thing, whenever we do actually have these mind controls, it's easier to show that actually these are over here, just to let you know that you are in control of these. And it looks as if, obviously, these guys are weaker too, so make them look puny. Okay, so for the humans, it's not looking too bad. We only need to get 6 Orion rockets down to Antarctica and launch up to basically win that game. So we're looking in quite a good position right now. I have to say the Brood is looking pretty strong too, because they're halfway as well. A little bit more about this Project Orion. Basically, it's a super rocket that is launched by firing hundreds of atomic bombs. And again, if it isn't launched from Antarctica, this devastations, fallout, and the poisoning of the atmosphere will basically be so great that humanity would probably go extinct anyway. So this is why it's got to be Antarctica. So as you can see, there are 8 Orions now on the map. So I can only count 7 for some reason. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, there's an extra one, wasn't there? Because we had 2 already delivered down there too, close to Antarctica. Okay, so now we need to think of what we need to be doing. The Brood, once again, they're going to start with 5 mind power because they've got 2 adults and they start with 3, so they're in play there. And it's going to place its new mind control, a new control marker on one of the European armies in India, and then plants its free larva in Japan. So again, the larva is always going to be adjacent to a worker. So we're going to pick up one of those larva pieces, and there it is. Again, just like the humans, you can't have more than what's currently there. That's going to go over to Japan. They don't care about dormancy and stuff like that. So that's taken care of Japan. And as I mentioned, it's a new control marker is also going to be going on as well. So we now need to take a mind control marker. We're taking over that army in India. So now that's there. Remember, you're not touching anything with air is always off the board anyway. And then what we're going to know to understand is basically when it chose to do that, it's now down to 4 mind control. And it's going to spend 2 mind power to build a worker in North America. So now we're going to pick up a worker piece, obviously worker broodling, and it's going to go into North America. And in this case, it's probably going to go here. One other thing I just realised I could do is, of course, have the box a little bit on display there. I think that's quite cool to show Invasion of the Brood. Maybe have it sideways? Yeah, that kind of works. Depends how much I want to be showing off. I think that works fairly effectively. Okay, so where were we? We've now got this the Brood turn. So it's going to look into having this 4 mind control. It's spending 2 of them to build a work in North America, and then it sends its berserk attacking both US Army units, and it's the first of its controlled air units as well for this first attack. In retaliation, the humans send 1 US air unit. Again, we can come back and fight back as we do this. And it shoots down the Brood air unit. And so let's pick up and obviously pick this off, and it comes off. And then what's going to happen is the US survives its counterstrikes. It's still in play. The humans then move that US air unit to the used bank. So because we did use it, it's now being expended. The Brood then sends in another air unit for the second attack, and the humans refrain from intercepting it. The Brood auto hits with a total of 6. So I've talked about this already. If it already has enough of a battle strength, it can be strong enough as it is. So what we do though is we can roll a 5 to try and defend it, but obviously it's no good. It needs to be a low value to do well, so we then lose that unit as well. Okay, the Brood is still going to be attacking with its last air unit, and it still fails to defend, and both US armies were destroyed. So these are now out of the picture. So again, you can keep on fighting, keep on going with it, just make sure you get lucky die rolls. and at least in this, this newly spawned worker is now destroyed too. So at least when we did do some fighting here, we can get rid of a worker here too. So this one that we just built, it's gone. Otherwise, it'd be quite close to curtains. As you can see, it's escalating tension, getting closer and closer to victory for both sides. So again, it's now down to 2, and so it's still got some manpower left. It's using 1 to now seize control of a minor army in West Africa. So over here, we've got an army here. So it's going to seize control of one of them. So we've still got one, obviously. We've got this European army that helped earlier. And it's going to destroy the Orions. So pew, and it's destroyed this. So suddenly we've left it alone, didn't have enough of a backup, and it's just destroyed it. So now, since that's a free control marker there, and again it's lost an air unit, then moves the minor army to East Africa, destroy that Orion too. So now it's come over here, that's gone as well. So the humans, what can they do? Well, they decide to declare war on Japan. And they do this basically to get all 4 phases. So they've gone straight into here. The reason they've chosen to do it is it's taking too long to try and mediate. We just want everything. But as you can imagine, if you go to declare war, what can happen? Well, the brood get 2 dupe tokens. What do dupe tokens look like? Let me show you. So there are 12 dupe tokens, and basically they look like this. So like humans, but you can see the little alien inside them. Okay, and the Japanese fleet is placed in the Arctic. So over here, we're going to have this Japanese fleet placed up there. So we're now going to pick up a Japanese fleet token. We have the Hoyanga carrier, let's say, and that's going to go up there. So it looks dangerous, of course, for the humans right now. The broods just need 7 mind power to win the next turn. And that's because 2 mind power to spawn a worker and seize a factory in Europe. So we've got something around here we could take over. And it's also then got 2 mind power to do the same in Japan. So of course we've declared war. That is now in the game. And we have 3 mind power that could be used to spawn a larva in China down here, which we're not even in yet. And again, it can turn into a worker and seize that factory. Immediately, we've lost the game as the humans. So if the brood still has both adults next turn, it'll have that 7 mind power it needs. That's because it's got dupe tokens. So that's why you do not want to let them have dupe tokens, because basically it's making it as if it's got this extra strength. It basically counts as an extra bit of power, because that power is coming from us, it's coming from our minds. So we've basically infected ourselves, not just our machinery, our arsenal. Right, so being aware of duping and how difficult it is to go to war, and maybe you don't want to be going to war, you've then obviously got to either liberate a factory or kill some of these broodmasters on the map. Now we're going to move on to the Project Orion. So again, always Project Orion after you awaken, and of course our awakening was going after Japan. So first, we're going to launch 2 Orions in Antarctica. So again, they're moving across, and then they're launched. And then here we go, we can place them in here, showing our completion level. There's nothing equivalent for the brood, we just can see on the map where they're taking over. Okay, next, the 3 on-map Orions are then transported. So we've still got some things still around, there's still some other things in play, but right now we're only seeing 4, but we're talking about 3 of them presently. And what they're going to be doing is 2 are going to go to, one's going to go to Mountain Madness, one's going to come, so bounce down here. And then I guess these guys could come down to Antarctica as well, obviously via this route. Okay, so by spreading into different areas, obviously it's going to be harder to knock out doing that way too. Then we're going to spawn new Orions. So now Patagonia is free, so we can now get another one there. We could get another one in South America. And again, you could choose to think about fleets, but we're going to go in Western Australia as well. Okay, so now we've built over there, we've also got Western Africa still there. And suddenly, obviously we want to get more, but they're all pretty much in play now, so you have a finite limit. So then you're going to move the minor fleets in the South Atlantic. Remember, we've got this minor fleet down here, and that's going to move to the South Pacific, so it's going to pop over to here, and then it's going to then move to the Indian Army in, so we're going to go all the way around here, so that is still over here. We have the Indian Army next door, so we can pick that up, or basically let it jump on it and hop off the other side. And it's going to basically move to McMurdo. Okay, so we're able to pick up this fleet, and it's come all the way around, getting around here, and now it's helping to protect down in Antarctica. Yes, these caterpillar tracks do work not just on sand, but also down on ice as well. Right, so obviously we're spreading ourselves over quite nicely here. We're having a bit of defense, we've got some stuff going on here. And now we're going to move this Mexican army as well. We're going to bring that down here too. So that's going to come down here as well. And yeah, it's now going to make the Brood have to spend extra mind control to destroy the units there. So it's going to come all the way down here and deal with all the stuff. Okay, so we'd like to get more armies, but just need to be aware that we still need them in other places, dealing with our Broodmasters, watching out for the stuff as well. Then you can be battling, and I'll leave it at that point there. But again, it's in the fate of who do you think is going to win? Is it going to lean towards the Broodmasters? Do you want to try and just keep them at bay? Do you want to both be gung ho and go for victory? It's quite easy for the Broodmaster. They're just again, do they want to be trying to destroy Orions, or do they want to try and get out that factory? So lots to think about. It's a very strategic game. There's lots of different things you need to be aware of. Lots of different facets to it, and it's quite a high depth strategy game. A lot more than it might anticipate appearing, because there's so much to be considering. So many things that do you again. Is it zero sum? Is it game theory? Do you want to ensure that you have these factories safe? Do you want to create more factories to allow you to have more opportunities? There's an abstract strategy game called War Chest that's kind of similar, whereby do you bolster what you have, or do you go weaker but then grow stronger elsewhere? You've got this obviously this brooding phase where things get stronger and stronger and stronger, and do you want to try and mitigate that, or do you want to try and go for your own victory condition? Of course, for the humans, this victory condition can look quite straightforward, but it's something to be bearing in mind. And of course, dealing with different things such as fleets, which are great at transporting. It's a very nice way of actually having 3 different units doing 3 very different things. Key thing for battling, obviously, down here. Great for defense, using that fleet as well. And in fact, for attack in particular. But ultimately, what do you want to be doing? Do you want to be using the air, the air support, of course? You've got to be aware that it could be taken over as well. So do you really want to be giving that to your opponents, to the Brood? So there's lots of different ways to approach this game. And again, I talked about the handicap. If you feel that you've played it quite a bit and you've won it as both humans and Brood, and how you want to handle that. And yeah, I can definitely see this kind of PC computing mind as well, how you can go from a digital to an analog game with this, into ultimately it's a very this warlike strategy game, building things up, protecting it, ebbing and flowing. And the great thing about modern games such as this is it's ramping up. You're not going to just stalemate it for a very long period of time. We're talking, as with great Euro games, it's a 6 to 8 kind of round game. You're just building things up and you're thinking, all right, I'm going to go for that. Yeah, I am going to take you on. I'm going to battle with you here, or I'm not going to interact with you here. But as the humans, you've got to be aware that there's a bit of a race going on. You need to be covering off and ensuring that you get these these factories uncovered, because it doesn't matter for the Brood. So you need to make sure you are getting around the place a bit, just to deal with that threat, and ensure that you are keeping as many of these spaces free as possible. Because early game, you're not able to do too much with these, and you are going to have to cover stuff off. But you don't mind doing that early on, because you can't do much of it anyway. So again, that has been pretty much that review. I've been talking about, obviously, what I really like about these components, in particular the art as well, the whole way through, and the fact that these snugly fit in here. Of course, you might have to overlap a bit, but that's fine. Quite nice large areas where, of course, you can move across. Opens up your the avenue. It doesn't become too, I guess, chess-like, whereby it's just, can you go up or down, left or right? No, you can go, sideways and wrap around, and then various other things too. So this is a hex board here. So you can see it's on a massive box, so doesn't take up, I guess, too much space. But as you can see on the table, it's has a nice kind of sci-fi look to it. But everything does fit in well. Like I said, I did have to use extra bags, and I will be bagging everything up separately, because it just helps to pack things away. In fact, canisters and stuff like that, very handy just to grab out everything relevant. I also like these mats. These are kind of nice plastic linen finish mats, so you don't have any issues with them. But that's been the video. So hopefully that's been a great demonstration of Invasion of the Brood. Hope you enjoyed it. Who would you vote for? The humans again, or this Magna Lux, obviously alien, who's got a bit of a midlife crisis going on? All right, well, let me know. Thanks very much. Bye for now.